Buddhism, one of the world's oldest philosophies, has guided countless individuals toward a life of wisdom and balance for over 2,500 years. Rooted in profound spiritual teachings, it offers timeless insights into human nature and the path to inner peace. In a world often filled with stress and uncertainty, Buddhism's emphasis on mindfulness, compassion, and understanding resonates more than ever. Today, we'll explore 8 transformative teachings that lie at the heart of Buddhist thought. Principles that not only shaped ancient traditions, but continue to inspire and empower people worldwide. Let's dive into these key lessons and discover their relevance in our lives. The Four Noble Truths. Understanding suffering. The Four Noble Truths form the cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy and offer profound insight into the nature of human existence. At the heart of these teachings is the concept of dukkha, which is often translated as suffering. Dukkha does not just refer to physical pain or emotional distress, but encompasses the inherent dissatisfaction and impermanence of life. Everything in existence, according to the Buddha, is subject to change, and because of this, all things are in a state of constant flux. Even moments of joy or pleasure are fleeting, eventually giving way to loss, disappointment, or change. In this sense, suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience. It is not limited to the extreme forms of pain or grief we experience in life, but also includes more subtle forms of dissatisfaction, such as anxiety, unfulfilled desires, and the yearning for things to be different than they are. The second noble truth addresses the causes of suffering, which the Buddha identified as craving, or tanha. This craving is not limited to material desires, but also includes craving for experiences, relationships, status, and even life itself. Essentially, it refers to the deep-seated attachment to the transient nature of things. When we cling to anything, whether it be a person, an object, or a belief, we are inevitably setting ourselves up for suffering because everything is impermanent. In Buddhist thought, this attachment creates a cycle of craving, dissatisfaction, and ultimately pain. We continuously seek pleasure or avoid pain, but because we cling to what is temporary, the cycle repeats itself, perpetuating our suffering. The third noble truth offers a beacon of hope. The cessation of suffering is possible. The Buddha taught that by understanding the root causes of suffering and addressing them, we can reach a state of liberation, or nirvana. This is a state of inner peace, free from the cravings and attachments that bind us to the cycle of suffering. Achieving cessation of suffering requires us to let go of our attachments, develop mindfulness, and cultivate wisdom. It is not about denying life or rejecting the world around us, but about accepting things as they are and realizing that true peace comes from within. Through this realization, we can transcend the constant cycle of craving and suffering that defines much of human experience. The fourth noble truth outlines the path to liberation, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. This is a practical guide for transforming one's life and overcoming suffering. It includes aspects like right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each of these components works together to help individuals move toward a life of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. The path is not linear, but a lifelong journey of growth and self-discovery, and it provides the tools necessary for overcoming the suffering that all beings inevitably face. The Four Noble Truths, taken together, provide the framework for understanding the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. As the foundation of Buddhist thought, they offer not only a means of understanding life, but also a practical guide for transforming it. They remind us that suffering is an inescapable part of life, but it is possible to transcend it through awareness, mindfulness, and wisdom. These teachings offer hope and a path forward, making them a vital part of Buddhism that resonates with people seeking peace in a turbulent world. The Eightfold Path, the fourth of the Four Noble Truths, offers a detailed roadmap to achieve liberation and enlightenment. It is a set of practices designed to transform the mind, body, and heart, ultimately guiding individuals toward the cessation of suffering. Unlike some spiritual paths that emphasize belief or faith, the Eightfold Path is a practical guide to living a life that cultivates wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The path is divided into 3 essential categories: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline, with each of the 8 steps contributing to a balanced, harmonious existence. The first step, right view, is foundational to the path. It involves seeing the world as it truly is, acknowledging the reality of suffering, the impermanence of life, and the interconnectedness of all beings. This practice encourages a deep understanding of the Four Noble Truths and an awareness of the nature of existence. Right view is not about intellectual knowledge alone. It's about a profound shift in perception that enables us to see things clearly, free from the distortions caused by desire, hatred, or ignorance. When we begin to see the world with clarity, we can approach life with greater wisdom and less attachment, thus to respond to challenges in more compassionate ways. Right intention follows as the natural progression from right view. It involves cultivating an attitude of kindness, compassion, and non-harming. Right intention is the mental framework that supports ethical conduct and mental discipline. It encourages us to act with goodwill and avoid harmful thoughts, intentions, or desires. This step helps to purify the mind, aligning one's actions with the higher ideals of selflessness, generosity, and love. By committing to right intention, we cultivate a mindset that supports both personal transformation and the well-being of others. The next steps, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, focus on ethical conduct. Right speech emphasizes the importance of speaking truthfully and kindly, avoiding lies, gossip, or harmful words. Words have the power to build or destroy, and this practice encourages communication that is beneficial, uplifting, and honest. Right action focuses on ethical behavior, promoting actions that are harmless and beneficial to oneself and others. It involves refraining from actions like killing, stealing, or engaging in unethical behavior, and instead encourages acts of kindness, compassion, and respect. Right livelihood goes hand in hand with right action, encouraging individuals to choose careers and professions that are morally sound and contribute positively to society. This step emphasizes the importance of ethical work that does not cause harm to others or perpetuate suffering. The final three steps, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, address mental discipline and spiritual development. Right effort involves cultivating a proactive attitude toward personal growth. It encourages consistent effort in developing wholesome qualities like compassion and wisdom, while working to abandon unwholesome ones like greed and anger. Right mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware and present in each moment, observing thoughts, feelings, and sensations without attachment or aversion. It is through mindfulness that we develop the ability to respond to situations with wisdom rather than reacting impulsively. Finally, right concentration refers to the cultivation of deep meditative states, where the mind becomes focused and still, leading to clarity and insight. Through concentration, the mind gains the strength and clarity necessary to see the truth of reality. In modern life, the Eightfold Path offers profound guidance for navigating the complexities of daily existence. These steps are not just theoretical ideals, but practical practices that can be applied in everyday situations. For example, cultivating right speech can improve relationships and foster greater harmony in our interactions. Practicing mindfulness can help manage stress and enhance emotional well-being. By following the Eightfold Path, individuals can build a foundation of wisdom, compassion, and mental clarity that enables them to live with greater peace and purpose, both on the spiritual path and in their everyday lives. This roadmap to enlightenment remains a timeless guide for anyone seeking to live a more intentional, fulfilling, and compassionate life. Karma and rebirth, cause and effect. Karma and rebirth are central concepts in Buddhism, intertwined in a cycle that shapes our experiences and our spiritual journey. Karma, often translated as action or deed, refers to the law of moral causation, where every action, thought, and word has consequences. In simple terms, it is the principle that what we do, whether good or bad, will return to us in some form, shaping our present and future realities. This law is not merely about punishment or reward, but about the natural unfolding of cause and effect, where every action sets off a chain reaction that influences the course of our lives and even our future lifetimes. The notion of karma is rooted in the understanding that all actions arise from intentions. In Buddhist thought, intention is paramount. A wholesome, kind, and compassionate intention leads to positive karma, while an intention driven by greed, hatred, or ignorance leads to negative karma. For example, helping others selflessly creates good karma that may manifest as happiness, success, or fulfillment in the future, while causing harm or acting out of anger or jealousy creates negative karma, which may result in suffering or misfortune. Unlike the concept of fate or destiny, Karma emphasizes personal responsibility, as it shows how each individual's actions directly shape their present and future experiences. Karma is not just about the immediate results of one's actions, but extends beyond the present lifetime. In Buddhism, it is believed that karma transcends death, impacting not only the experiences in this life, but also the conditions into which one is reborn. This brings us to the concept of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Samsara represents the continuous cycle of existence in which beings are reborn again and again, driven by the karma accumulated in previous lives. The ultimate goal in Buddhism is to break free from this cycle by achieving nirvana, a state of liberation and enlightenment, where one is no longer subject to rebirth or suffering. The concept of rebirth is closely linked to the idea that our consciousness or the seeds of our actions carry forward from one life to the next. Unlike the concept of a permanent soul in some other religious traditions, Buddhism teaches that what is reborn is not a fixed self, but the accumulated karma, the actions, desires, and attachments from one life to another. In this way, rebirth is not a random event, but a continuation of our actions and choices. For example, if a person has led a life full of generosity and kindness, their future rebirth may be in more favorable conditions, potentially giving them greater opportunities to practice and advance on the spiritual path. Conversely, negative karma can lead to difficult circumstances, potentially resulting in a less fortunate rebirth. This understanding of karma and rebirth serves as a powerful motivator in Buddhist practice, encouraging individuals to live mindfully and ethically. By cultivating positive actions and avoiding harmful ones, one can accumulate good karma, shaping future experiences in beneficial ways. It also invites Buddhists to take personal responsibility for their actions, understanding that the quality of their life and their future depends on the choices they make today. Moreover, the understanding of karma and rebirth also provides a deep sense of continuity and interconnection. It reminds practitioners that they are not separate from the world around them, but intricately woven into the web of cause and effect. Our actions affect not only ourselves, but others, and the ripple effects of our choices can reach far beyond our immediate lives. This interconnectedness fosters a deep sense of responsibility and compassion, urging Buddhists to work toward the well-being of all beings, not just themselves. In modern life, understanding karma and rebirth can also provide a framework for overcoming challenges. Rather than seeing difficulties as random misfortunes or punishments, practitioners can view them as the result of past actions, providing an opportunity to learn, grow, and transform. Through conscious effort, meditation, and ethical conduct, individuals can begin to purify their karma and ultimately move toward liberation, freeing themselves from the cycle of samsara and the suffering it entails. This understanding helps cultivate resilience, patience, and wisdom, as each person realizes they have the power to shape their future through their present actions. Mindfulness and meditation, cultivating awareness. Mindfulness and meditation are core practices in Buddhism, essential tools for cultivating awareness, clarity, and insight. The practice of mindfulness, often referred to as sati in Pali, involves being fully present in the moment, paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations without judgment. In our fast-paced, distraction-filled world, mindfulness offers a powerful antidote to the chaos of daily life, encouraging individuals to step away from the constant noise of external stimuli and internal chatter. By learning to observe and accept what is happening in the present moment, mindfulness enables us to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, our emotions, and the world around us. The importance of being present cannot be overstated. So much of human suffering arises from our tendency to dwell on the past or worry about the future. We often ruminate over past mistakes or obsess over what might happen tomorrow, creating unnecessary stress and anxiety. Mindfulness counters this habit by encouraging us to focus on the here and now, to experience life without clinging to past regrets or future fears. By training ourselves to be present, we begin to experience life more fully and clearly, without the distortions caused by mental distractions. This awareness helps us develop greater equanimity, responding to challenges and difficulties with a calm, measured approach, instead of reacting impulsively out of fear, anger, or frustration. When practiced consistently, mindfulness leads to clarity of thought and peace of mind. It allows us to see our emotions and thoughts as they arise, without becoming overwhelmed by them. For instance, when we feel anger rising, Mindfulness helps us recognize the emotion early on, allowing us to make a conscious decision on how to respond, rather than being consumed by it. This ability to observe without judgment is crucial for developing insight into the nature of our own minds and the impermanent nature of our experiences. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness cultivates a deep understanding of the three marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. By directly experiencing the transient nature of all things, we begin to loosen our attachment to them, reducing suffering and increasing our sense of inner peace. Meditation, the practice most closely associated with mindfulness, plays an essential role in developing this awareness and mental clarity. While mindfulness can be practiced throughout daily life, meditation provides a dedicated time and space to cultivate focus, concentration, and insight. In Buddhist practice, there are several types of meditation, including samatha, calming meditation, and vipassana, insight meditation. Samatha meditation involves focusing on a single object, such as the breath, to calm the mind and develop concentration. This focused attention helps to sharpen the mind, making it easier to observe and understand the flow of thoughts, emotions, and sensations that arise during meditation. By quieting the mind, samatha meditation prepares the practitioner for deeper insight into the nature of reality. Vipassana meditation, on the other hand, aims to cultivate insight into the nature of existence. Through mindfulness and observation, practitioners begin to see things as they truly are: impermanent, unsatisfactory, and devoid of a permanent self. This form of meditation encourages the practitioner to observe sensations, thoughts, and emotions as they arise, letting go of attachments and seeing them for what they are: temporary phenomena that come and go. The goal of vipassana is not only to develop a clearer understanding of the mind, but also to experience liberation from the cycle of craving and suffering. By seeing the impermanent nature of all things, we cultivate the wisdom needed to break free from attachments and attain the state of nirvana. Mindfulness and meditation also play a critical role in emotional regulation. By developing awareness of our mental and emotional states, we are better able to manage negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, and anger before they take control. For instance, during meditation, we might experience restlessness or discomfort. Mindfulness teaches us to observe these sensations without reacting to them, allowing them to pass naturally without creating unnecessary stress. This cultivated mental discipline helps to transform our habitual patterns of thought, leading to greater resilience in the face of challenges. In modern life, the practice of mindfulness and meditation is more relevant than ever. In a world full of distractions, constant information overload, and mounting pressures, these practices offer a way to ground ourselves and return to what truly matters. By training the mind through meditation and practicing mindfulness in daily life, we create a space of peace and clarity, where wisdom can arise and help us navigate the complexities of existence with a balanced, calm mind. Impermanence, Anicca, embracing change. Impermanence, or Anicca, is one of the central teachings of Buddhism, highlighting the transient nature of all things. According to this principle, everything, be it material possessions, relationships, emotions, or even life itself, is in a constant state of flux. Nothing lasts forever. This concept may seem simple, yet it carries profound implications for how we experience life and how we can reduce suffering. In a world that often encourages attachment to things, people, and outcomes, embracing impermanence can bring a transformative shift in how we perceive and respond to the challenges of daily life. The impermanent nature of reality is not limited to external events, but extends to our internal experiences as well. Our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations all arise and pass away in the blink of an eye. For example, feelings of joy, anger, or sadness are fleeting, appearing only to disappear just as quickly. Similarly, physical sensations, like the sensation of hunger or discomfort, can change at any moment. Understanding that all things are impermanent allows us to let go of the belief that anything is fixed or permanent, freeing us from the weight of expectations and attachments. One of the most profound aspects of this teaching is how it can reduce suffering. When we understand that all things, whether pleasant or painful, are temporary, we begin to loosen our grip on them. The desire to hold on to pleasurable experiences or avoid painful ones often leads to suffering. For example, when we cling to a happy moment, trying to hold on to it forever, we set ourselves up for disappointment when it inevitably ends. Conversely, When we resist or fear uncomfortable experiences, such as grief or frustration, we create more suffering by trying to avoid or deny them. However, by accepting that all experiences, both positive and negative, are fleeting, we can embrace life as it comes without clinging or resisting. This acceptance creates a sense of peace, as we recognize that nothing is permanent, including our difficulties. When we apply the principle of impermanence in our lives, we begin to see how attachment and expectations fuel suffering. For instance, we often place high expectations on material possessions, believing that acquiring something will bring us lasting happiness. However, the joy of acquiring a new item fades over time, and the initial excitement is replaced by a desire for the next thing. The same can be said for relationships. We may form attachments to people, hoping that they will always be there for us. But the reality is that relationships, like everything else, change. People grow, move away, or change in ways that we may not expect. By acknowledging the impermanence of relationships, we can learn to appreciate them for what they are in the present, without clinging to an idealized vision of the future. Impermanence also teaches us to appreciate the present moment. In our everyday lives, we often find ourselves distracted by worries about the future or regrets about the past. We may become so focused on what's to come or what we've lost that we miss the beauty of the present moment. By recognizing that the present is all we truly have, we are able to experience life more fully. For instance, when we enjoy a meal, we can savor it without worrying about the next task on our to-do list. When we spend time with loved ones, we can be present, appreciating the time we have together rather than worrying about what might happen in the future. This principle of impermanence can be applied to everyday situations as well. Take, for example, a challenging experience like a job loss. In the moment, it may seem like the end of the world, and feelings of fear and anxiety may arise. However, when we reflect on the impermanent nature of all things, we can see that this situation, like all others, is temporary. The pain and uncertainty will eventually fade, and new opportunities may arise. Understanding impermanence encourages us to adopt a more flexible mindset, where we accept change as a natural part of life and trust that better days are ahead. Similarly, moments of success and happiness are also fleeting. We may experience moments of triumph, such as achieving a career milestone or reaching a personal goal, but these too are impermanent. When we acknowledge the transient nature of success, we can celebrate achievements without becoming overly attached to them, maintaining a sense of gratitude while remaining open to what lies ahead. By embracing change and understanding that nothing is permanent, we learn to live with greater freedom, resilience, and peace. The wisdom of impermanence reminds us that everything is constantly evolving, and by embracing this truth, we can reduce our suffering and live more fully in the present moment. No self, Anatta, the illusion of ego. The concept of Anatta, or no self, is one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, challenging the common belief in a permanent, unchanging self. According to this teaching, there is no fixed eternal identity or soul that defines who we are. Instead, what we consider to be our self is actually a collection of constantly changing thoughts, emotions, experiences, and physical sensations. The ego, the sense of I or me, is an illusion, constantly shifting and evolving. The Buddhist perspective on Anatta invites us to question the very foundation of our sense of self and encourages us to move beyond the ego's confines. At the heart of Anatta is the idea that there is no permanent, unchanging essence inside us. Our thoughts, feelings, and even our physical bodies are in a constant state of flux. We are not the same person from moment to moment. Our thoughts are constantly changing. Our emotions ebb and flow, and our bodies age and transform over time. This teaching challenges the conventional belief that we are a fixed entity, that there is a permanent self at the core of who we are. Instead, Buddhism asserts that the self is an ongoing process, shaped by causes and conditions, and that it is ultimately empty of any inherent lasting identity. The illusion of a permanent self often leads to attachment and clinging, which in turn results in suffering. We tend to identify strongly with the ego, believing that it defines who we are and what we should have in life. This identification with the self fuels desires, ambitions, and a sense of possessiveness. For example, we might feel threatened by changes in our appearance or aging, as we have a deep attachment to the idea of maintaining our youthful identity. Similarly, we cling to our social status, achievements, and material possessions, believing they define our worth. When these things are threatened or lost, the ego experiences suffering. But by understanding that the self is an illusion, we can begin to let go of these attachments and experience life with greater freedom. One of the most powerful ways to experience the truth of Anatta is through mindfulness and meditation. As we practice being present with our thoughts and emotions, we begin to notice that they are fleeting, coming and going without any lasting identity. Thoughts arise in the mind, but they do not define who we are. Likewise, emotions appear, but they do not last forever. The more we meditate on the impermanent and interconnected nature of our thoughts and experiences, the more we realize that there is no permanent self at the core of our being. This insight allows us to detach from the ego and its desires, leading to a profound sense of freedom. Letting go of the ego does not mean that we lose our individuality or cease to be ourselves. Instead, it means releasing the need for a rigid, unchanging identity. By seeing through the illusion of the self, we can experience life more fully, without being weighed down by the constant desire for self-preservation and validation. For example, when we let go of our attachment to status and external recognition, we free ourselves from the need to constantly prove our worth. We become more present in our relationships, less concerned with how others perceive us, and more focused on genuine connection. The concept of Anatta also encourages us to see that all beings are interconnected. Since the self is not separate or fixed, we begin to understand that we are all part of a larger whole. The suffering caused by clinging to the ego diminishes when we recognize the interconnectedness of all things. Our individual experiences, desires, and identities are shaped by the relationships and conditions around us. By letting go of the illusion of a separate self, we open ourselves to compassion and understanding, both for ourselves and others. Ultimately, the teaching of Anatta invites us to experience true freedom. When we release our attachment to the ego and the belief in a permanent self, we are no longer bound by the desires, fears, and insecurities that come with it. We can live more authentically, accepting ourselves as we are, without the need for validation or external approval. We learn to live with greater ease and acceptance, embracing the flow of life without clinging to any fixed notion of who we are. In letting go of the illusion of the self, we find freedom. Freedom from suffering, freedom from the constraints of the ego, and freedom to live fully in the present moment. Compassion and loving kindness, Metta, the heart of Buddhism. Compassion and loving kindness, or Metta, are at the heart of Buddhist practice. These qualities are considered essential for fostering peace, harmony, and deep spiritual growth. Metta refers to the genuine, unconditional wish for the happiness and well-being of all beings, without discrimination. It is an active practice that calls for cultivating love and goodwill towards ourselves and others, transcending boundaries of race, gender, nationality, and even species. Buddhism teaches that the cultivation of metta is not only a path to personal happiness, but also a means to heal the world and create a more compassionate and harmonious society. The practice of loving kindness begins with oneself. Buddha taught that in order to love others fully, one must first cultivate love for oneself. This does not mean self-centeredness or narcissism, but rather developing an attitude of self-compassion, acceptance, and kindness. When we learn to care for ourselves without judgment or harshness, we create the foundation for extending that love to others. Self-love, in this context, is about acknowledging our own suffering and responding to it with tenderness and understanding, just as we would for a close friend or loved one. Through this process, we begin to transform the way we relate to others, moving beyond selfishness and towards empathy and understanding. Buddha's life is filled with powerful examples of compassion in action. One famous story is that of a woman named Kisa Gotami, who was deeply grieving the death of her child. In her despair, she approached Buddha, asking him to bring her son back to life. Buddha, in his infinite compassion, instructed her to find a mustard seed from a house where no one had died. As she went from house to house, she realized that every family had experienced loss. And with this realization, her grief began to ease. Buddha's compassion in this instance did not offer a miraculous solution, but instead provided insight into the nature of life and death, helping Kisa Gotami move from sorrow to understanding. This story is a powerful reminder of the deep compassion Buddha showed toward those who were suffering, offering wisdom that facilitated healing. Another well-known example of Buddha's compassion is his response to a group of bandits who planned to kill him. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, Buddha greeted the bandits with kindness and love, and through his gentle words, he transformed their hearts. He spoke to them of the harm of violence and the power of kindness, ultimately leading the bandits to lay down their weapons and renounce their violent ways. This act of compassion, where Buddha chose peace over aggression, exemplifies the transformative power of loving kindness in the face of hostility and suffering. The practice of metta extends beyond personal interactions and relationships. It is a practice that can change entire communities and societies. When individuals come together to cultivate loving kindness, they create a collective atmosphere of peace, understanding, and harmony. Compassion is contagious. When one person acts with kindness, it often inspires others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that can transcend cultural, social, and geographical boundaries. In this way, the practice of metta can help to heal divisions, reduce conflict, and build strong, supportive communities that are rooted in mutual respect and care for all beings. Furthermore, Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of compassion not just toward humans, but towards all living beings. Metta is universal, extending to animals, plants, and even the environment. Buddha taught that all beings, regardless of their form, experience suffering and have the same desire to be happy. By extending compassion to all living creatures, we deepen our connection to the world around us and align ourselves with the interconnectedness of all life. This universal compassion is central to the Buddhist view of ethics, where the welfare of all beings is seen as inseparable from our own well-being. The practice of loving kindness and compassion is not just a moral ideal in Buddhism. It is a vital part of the path to enlightenment. As we develop compassion, we begin to let go of the barriers that separate us from others, moving toward a state of oneness with all beings. Through compassion, we free ourselves from the suffering caused by selfish desires and ego-based thinking, allowing us to experience true peace and joy. In this way, metta becomes a transformative practice, both for the individual and for the collective, leading to deeper spiritual fulfillment and a more harmonious world. The middle way, balance in life. The middle way, as taught by Buddha, is one of the most profound and essential principles of Buddhism. It calls for a balanced approach to life, avoiding the extremes of self-indulgence and severe self-denial. Buddha himself discovered this path through his own personal journey. Early in his life, he indulged in the luxuries of his royal upbringing, seeking pleasure and comfort. However, he quickly realized that such indulgence only led to dissatisfaction and a sense of emptiness. Later, in an attempt to find spiritual awakening, Buddha practiced extreme asceticism, denying himself even the most basic needs of food and rest. But this too led to suffering and weakness rather than enlightenment. It was only when Buddha found the balance between these two extremes, the indulgence of his royal life and the austerity of asceticism, that he discovered the path to enlightenment. This realization became the foundation of the middle way, teaching that true peace and spiritual freedom are found not in the extremes of excess or deprivation, but in a balanced, mindful approach to life. The middle way is not about avoiding pleasure or material comfort altogether, but about engaging with life in a mindful, intentional way, free from attachment and craving. The principle of the middle way can be applied in many areas of life. For instance, in our approach to work, we are often caught in the trap of overworking, driven by ambition or fear of failure, or we may swing to the opposite extreme of laziness and inaction. The middle way encourages us to find a healthy balance between diligence and rest, recognizing the importance of both productivity and self-care. Similarly, in our relationships, the middle way teaches us to avoid extremes of dependence or detachment, instead cultivating relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and compassion. When it comes to lifestyle choices, the middle way advises us to live mindfully without clinging to material possessions or rejecting the comforts of life altogether. It is about recognizing the impermanent nature of all things and not becoming attached to them. Whether it's our food, our possessions, or our activities, the middle way guides us to appreciate and engage with life in a way that promotes well-being without becoming overly attached to outcomes or possessions. Applying the middle way also involves mindfulness in decision-making. In a world filled with choices and distractions, it is easy to either overindulge or completely withdraw from experiences. By practicing the middle way, we can approach each decision with awareness and balance, considering both our immediate needs and the long-term consequences. Whether we are faced with a choice in our work, relationships, or personal habits, the middle way provides a compass to guide us towards choices that promote harmony, growth, and inner peace. Buddha's journey exemplifies how the middle way is not just an abstract concept, but a practical guide to living a more harmonious and fulfilling life. By embracing this principle, we can navigate life's challenges with greater wisdom and clarity, avoiding the pitfalls of extremes that lead to suffering. Ultimately, the middle way encourages us to live with mindfulness, balance, and compassion, fostering peace both within ourselves and in the world around us.